So will humanity survive the catastrophe or the apocalypse that is known as the sun, well, expanding out compared to like maybe when it does? And I want to say, yeah, humanity has survived. Like, they've survived so much over the years. I mean, yeah, it sucks that, we kill people, and to this day we're still doing that. But other than that, when done correctly, and there's really nothing wrong with what we're doing, I mean, there's smart people out there that, I mean, everybody's smart. You just got to realize it. And if you don't think you're smart, you should find a way to prove that wrong, because, I mean, anything's possible. All you have to take into consideration is that we all make mistakes, sure, but, we also learn new things, too. For example, we already know how to break the Earth's atmosphere. We already know that there's, like, an infinite number of planets out there. And this is, I mean, even if some of it, for the most part, is well, I mean, there are still some things out there that we fully don't understand, but, at the same time, though, we understand enough that it keeps us not only busy, but it also keeps us intrigued with what we come across that exists right now that we don't know about within our galaxy. And I mean, to put it quite bluntly, all we have to do is understand. I mean, we already understand that, how the star cycle works. The only question is how much time is really given. For example, once all the hydrogen evaporates out of the Earth's core, or out of the star's core, which is the hottest part of the star, and something about a nuclear fusion occurring, like, or really not occurring anymore, and then it just blows up because there's all this helium still. Either way, we still have a long way to go before that actually expands out and kills the Earth. Now, given that, especially if we're going to be aware of this problem in the future, I guarantee you people will probably stop. Especially if people are going to be smarter in the future, they'll probably find a way and dedicate like every second of their life to surviving this catastrophe by building like some sort of, top secret, or maybe even, because again, even take into consideration, what technology we don't even know about to the public yet. You'd be surprised how many things we don't know that over time we could eventually build something. I mean, there's people out there that are really smart, that they could figure out how to build, like, rockets, fuels, energy. I mean, there's scientists out there, like, all you gotta do is just be as smart as people like Stephen Hawking, or just know what you're talking about, and, and make it work somehow, and there you go. People say that, all you have to do is have an idea. For example, colonize on Mars, at least, like if you wanted to just do one step, take it one step at a time. There you go. Now all you got to do is find a way to make it happen somehow. Fly a spaceship to Mars, past the asteroid. No, well, not past the asteroid belt, because that's still in the inner planets. But anyways, you would have to fly past Mars. Well, you would go to Mars. Make sure you don't hit any of its moons, though, the 2 moons that it has. And, just land on it somehow. Make sure that the atmosphere, I mean, there's scientists that are thinking about even considering reviving the planet. And we're just on Earth. It's like, hey, what's that planet next door doing over there? Because obviously Venus is a lot less inhabitable than Mars would be. But considering that we could do that, though, you'd be surprised that, anything's possible. People like to say that something's not, but there's always that one person that wants to prove all those people wrong that, hey, yeah, we could do this and somehow make it work. And therefore, there you go. So, again, when you understand the problem and you understand the solution, all you got to do is do it. So, with the problem comes a solution, and with the knowledge comes the knowledge as well. Oh, that's a lot of wood. Anyways, but you think about like the moon, for example. We know it's accelerating fast, but eventually one day it'll disappear because we've studied it so long, because it's accelerating faster than the Earth can keep it in its orbit. But where is it going to go? Nobody knows. But at the same time, though, we know that the sun is expanding, or it will be expanding when it does. Not in our lifetime, but but there's scientists out there that while they're at it right now, they're gonna figure this out. They're gonna figure out how to get this off this planet, because there's always gonna be people out there that are smart. Maybe not everybody will survive, or maybe we will survive with everybody at that time. There are people out there that will always push for survival somehow, especially if it's during their lifetime and they don't want to just be engulfed by some star that just happened to have been at the end of its days Because the way the sun is going to work, it's going to expand out, but then it's going to kind of implode on itself. But, well, it's really going to shrink, rather. I don't understand, other than that, I don't really understand how that's going to work. But I'm sure we'll figure something out. People aren't that stupid. I mean, again, we've survived all these years. We've survived an apocalypse. We've survived a comet crashing, or not a comet, but rather asteroids crashing into this planet. We've survived each other. You know what I mean? I mean, my point is, don't give up. Yeah, you're right, it's not going to happen in this lifetime. But when it does happen, there will be an opportunity when the people take what they know and they will find a way to make this work. Because they believe in themselves. And they will, and essentially it will be the human race versus the sun. And humans will win 1, the sun 0. Because they will not let the sun pretty much implode on itself. People are smart and are vastly knowledgeable. This is why, I'll be honest, I used to lose faith in humanity a long time ago. But you know what? I realized something. There's always a reason for it to exist even further than and better than what it ever was before. And with that, we don't give up. We find a way to make this work. And one day, we will. Because there really isn't too much more we have to understand before we start building it, and maybe that won't even take that long. For example, maybe one day we'll build time machines, or maybe we'll even go back in time and stop the sun from, if we have to, or however that would work. Maybe we could build warp speed devices that could allow us, or even anti-gravity, that we can essentially, or maybe even fly a ship in space without even having to use some sort of fuel, and it can go freely wherever it wants. And you'd be surprised at how many things we could do that we don't even realize, but we just have to think about it. So, if that's true, and we understand just that much knowledge, and just that alone, and everything else that comes after it, sure, why give up? People, again, put aside what you hear from all these, from a lot of people, and just think about it. Humans will survive because they want to. They're not just going to let this happen, and therefore, gone as we will, I bet you if there is, some sort of an afterlife when we die, if there is, of some kind, then, I'm sure that even the humans that passed away or deceased, or people that were deceased, and are deceased, they will probably even feel happy that people were able to somehow take all that knowledge that they helped pass on to later generations to make it possible to survive. Take a big ball of gas and escape its orbit, or rather just to a safe point where the star itself doesn't incinerate the planet. Now, again, you got to also take into consideration, especially with a fire. You don't have to actually touch the flames to burn yourself, but it can also be so hot that it implements enough heat from a far distance away. So, the sun being as hot as it is, I'm sure we could still be within its orbit for the time being, but at the same time, though, we just need to buy ourselves enough time that we can get off this planet, and maybe even save the Earth while we're at it, Never know, right? You just never know, anything is possible. You just gotta figure it out. But before you can figure it out, you have to come to the realization that it is possible. And it is possible because, people have survived. I was always under the impression growing up, they always used to tell us that there was only one mass extinction. But so far, I've learned that there was 5 of them. And humanity has survived every single one of them. Maybe a lot of people won't survive, or some people won't survive, which sucks, but hey, that's just how laws of physics work. And we should try and fight it too at the same time. We should try and save everybody if we can, But at the same time, though, I guarantee you maybe it'd be possible we could save people from it, we can colonize on another planet, but at the same time, though, maybe we can save this planet too, just by pushing it away from the sun. Because, again, think of it like this. When you talk about, like planets that are being imploded, or rather, or not just imploded, but but rather like engulfed by like a source of heat. That's only because that's what would happen to it if it was still within that orbit, you know. Maybe, but if we do something about it, though, therefore it would be saved. And it is possible. It is very possible to do that. We would just have to make sure we don't collide with another planet and make sure we don't collide with Jupiter, because Jupiter is really big. Well, yeah, you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. But we should just take that into consideration. You know, all these things. Again, you know, in the world of science, there really is no such thing as a stupid question or a stupid analysis, because again, you know, it's better than doing nothing. It's better to come up with an idea and say, hey, this works, or maybe it might possibly work, and attempt to make it work somehow. You know, over time build up like this confidence and trying to find a way to make this illusion a reality. So, how do you take a hypothesis or a theory, well, two different things, but how do you take someone else's hypothesis and theory and make it a fact or a law? You prove it right. You do so much research to the point you understand the ins and outs of it, how it works, and you keep applying stuff to it, and you keep trying new things until you come across something that actually works. So, you know, to escape the sun, what we'd have to do is either find a way to move the Earth, and we can do it by changing the acceleration speed, but just enough that we stay within the orbit and we avoid, like, what else is orbiting around the stars. We could also find a way to maybe expand the life cycle of the sun by maybe finding a way to give... See, this is another one that I like. You know, this might sound like a stupid idea to some people, but if we could somehow send, like, rockets to the sun's atmosphere somehow that contain nothing but, like, you know, again, if we were to somehow be able to expand, like, the hydrogen or the helium within... or, well, I'm not sure about the helium, but... Or maybe we could just find a way to stop it from expanding, but find a way to keep giving it hydrogen that would keep it where it's at. I mean, essentially, if we could do that, we could make an already long lifespan for the star live even longer. And again, that might sound like a bad idea, because again, how would you do it? Sure, but you know, but again, it sounds like, it sounds like literally like it would work. Like all you have to do is just find a way to put more hydrogen element to, you know, inside of its atmosphere, and somehow the star would live even longer, because it's not burning it all the way up. So as long as it keeps burning, it will forever live. As long as there's nothing else that goes into that too, you know, if that makes sense. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's because of the amount of helium as well that's not really neutralizing the expanding process. So the sun stays as big as it is now because, you know, it's not expanding, or at least it's not going to be expanding into a hyper red giant. Do I got that right? Hyper red giant. There's so many classifications, even I get confused. A red giant. Essentially just a bigger star than what we see, you know, but we just have to find a way. I mean, the sun will still live, but the Earth will not if this continues. Now, I mean, I'll be honest. Now, when is it going to happen, though? It's debatable. We have to first of all figure out how much time we really have left. I've heard multiple things. I've heard people say we have like 1 billion light year or 1 billion years before it happens. I've heard people say that in 5 billion years, and then as time goes on, it will slowly expand, but it will eventually happen, though. You know what I mean? So we could definitely say that Mercury's screwed, and so is Venus, but maybe not, though. Maybe we can save Earth and Mars while we're at it. We just got to find a way to do it. But how will it work, though? Nobody knows. Nobody knows yet. But it will definitely be very interesting. And it will also probably, and it will be without a doubt, one of the greatest human accomplishments that anybody has ever laid eyes on. If we could, in fact, just move our planet away from an already existing problem. Because again, you know, anything is possible. Just got to believe it. But at the same time, they'll make it work too, so it worked. So, you know, get comment, rate, subscribe, favorite, share this video. It might just be a theory, but hey, you know what? That's what starts people to think. You know, you ask a question and then you get an answer.